Yeah, they do. I don't know anyone who does that, but I hear they're out there. How you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah.
Been a minute, as the kids say.
The kids say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
been a minute.
Yeah, it's been lit, fam.
Yeah. So how you doing?
Fine.
Yeah.
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 How's your mental health progressing? Situation normal? All fucked up?
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess 3 weeks ago or a month ago maybe, I don't know. I had the notion of going off of the SSRI.
Oh yeah.
And so I started weaning myself off with the guidance of my therapist and my pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
And a week and a half into it, I was like, nope, let's get back on those.
Well, at least you're honest enough to realize
Oh, yeah.
that's just not going to work.
No, so it...
But before you continue, why did you want to wean off of it?
Because I don't want to be on them forever.
Right.
They're
not giving you any bad side effects, are they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are they?
Not catastrophic,
Right, but enough
well,
to
I guess one of the side effects is considered a significant side effect.
Okay.
But because of what it had fixed,
Yeah. It was kind of worth it.
it wasn't kind of worth it.
It
It
was
absolutely worth
Right.
it.
Right.
And a big one is the sexual side effects.
Right.
I just, disinterest, can't get my dick hard. If I do, it's hard work. Pardon the pun. Even flaccid wiener is smaller. Like it's shutting down the environment down there.
Hmm.
And that's not uncommon. And I'm on another drug that is supposed to counteract that.
And?
It is not working.
Hmm.
It's not doing it. It's a funny balance of going, I kind of want off it. So that was the first attempt.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I was never sure, and you can't be sure until you are, if it was trauma-based issues or if it was biochemical. And it turns like it's biochemical. There's something wrong with my brain. So that's an interesting lesson to have learned. So I may be on these type of things forever. So now the next step is, whenever I get the gusto to do it, to maybe try out a different one to see how it goes. The problem with that is they can go sideways on you. Like going on an SSRI it's fucking with your brain chemistry for one.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could go bad. But some side effects are suicide.
Right.
Yeah, so there are other aspects that contribute to the sexual dysfunction in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So until those are resolved,
Mm-hmm.
I might not jump the gun, because some of them existed before I started the pills.
Is there, because of your previous history leading up to this moment, an extra degree of anxiety surrounding your libido that's making it even harder to
Get hard.
get ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah.
Shit, man, that's what ED is all about.
Right.
It's
It's in your head.
Very rarely is it physical.
Pun intended.
Yeah, yeah. Very rarely is it something physical. It's
Right.
usually in your head.
Yeah.
So, if I get those resolved, maybe that'll be fine. But yeah, I was just hoping to be off it. Other side effects are like, if I don't take it at the right time with food, I'll have the shits all day. It's devastating to my guts.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the biggest ones, just waterworks all day long.
Yeah.
So that was just a horrible way to live. Because it was great when it resolved the catastrophic thoughts of OCD.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm used to not having them,
Yep.
like, it's not worth shitting my brains out.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that said, yeah, my mental health is definitely on the up. Also because of the chronic pain that I've been dealing with for the last number of months. Seeing a number of physiotherapists, chiropractors, blah, 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 blah. I was recommended to a specific Pilates instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and saw her, and for the first time ever, I've actually had hope. After the first time meeting her.
Mm-hmm.
It was the kind of situation where she's like, if you do this, I bet it hurts right here. And I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, good, okay. And she started just tying things together. Like she just knew what was going on when nobody else previous had any idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been going to Pilates for the last couple weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's a slow go. She's like, this is going to take for fucking ever because it's a mess. And we have to go slow because you have...
Yeah, you don't want to break anything.
Right. That's the whole focus
Damage
of Pilates is we go... Like quite often when you're stretching or shit like that, they say go right to where it hurts. Like just stop. She's like, we're not even going there.
Yeah.
Don't even go there.
Yeah.
We're going before that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you wince. If you wince, you've gone too far.
Right. The idea is to slowly limber you up.
Yep. Just get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and doing so, and the range of motion in my shoulder has changed quite significantly. The pain isn't gone, but having the hope and seeing results is really good.
I think you're going to find that as you progress through your capacity to do more with that Pilates, you're probably going to start to notice, hey, I don't quite hurt as badly
Absolutely.
as I used to.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about that.
No, that's good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, so that's just started. It's only been a couple weeks, so.
So, what things
What the
happening in the
fuck?
world do you want to talk about?
How about them Jews, huh?
It was so funny when we kept postponing the next episode recording.
Yeah.
Adam's first thought was, "Gee, I hope the Jew war isn't over by the time we see each other again."
Something to talk about. No, man.
And it ain't.
No, man. They blew up a bunch of ambulances today.
And something tells me it's not going to be for quite some time.
Yeah.
Because now Lebanon wants to get involved, Hezbollah wants to get involved, Iran wants to get involved.
None of it's new, though.
Oh no, of course not. Of course not.
They're not going to get involved.
Well, if they feel they can bruise a few egos, they might.
I don't know, man.
But that's really all I have to say about that.
That's all you have to say about that?
Pretty much. Because it's like
Well, whose team are you on?
It's like history repeating itself.
It's not like, it's literally.
Yeah. Whose team am I on?
Yeah. Team
I
Jew
mean-
and Team Palestine. You better pick one. You gotta pick one.
I don't.
You have
actually.
to.
No, you don't.
Yeah. No,
you
that's
don't.
the rule. If you've been paying attention, you have to pick one.
Well,
You gotta go protest somebody.
right.
Pick one.
Right. Right.
You can't be mad at everybody.
Yeah. Well, just because they're the ones that started it, I'm not going to pick Hamas. The problem that I have with that whole thing is that when Israel attacks somebody, you can blame the nation and its people.
Yeah.
Because they elected that government.
Yeah.
It's their government. They're the deciders, and the people have essentially, propped up those deciders.
Yep.
So that's that.
Mm-hmm.
On the Palestinian side, though, Hamas does not speak for Palestine,
Nope.
but they're the ones who started it. So,
Mhm.
when you get right down to it, I do feel for the Palestinians as a people, but Hamas was definitely at fault and shouldn't have done this. So
So what's there to... Okay. Yeah,
The thing is, there's going to be as many or more innocent Palestinians killed as a result of Israel fighting back as there will be Hamas people killed.
oh,
as a
far more
result of
civilians,
this.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about the argument? And this is devil's advocate. I'm just curious.
Remember, I'm militantly non-committal. But yeah, go ahead, devil's advocate.
So, you're right. Hamas did what they did October 7th. They, quote unquote, started it.
Yes,
But why does Hamas exist? That's a loaded ass question.
I guess.
That's from a long time ago.
I wish I could answer it with a degree of accuracy and facts, because I can't.
Well,
But my guess would be
does he live in a
because
concentration camp?
I think I think it goes deeper than that.
Does it?
Well, the history of Israel. Israel was set up as a country by Western nations
Uh-huh.
to give Jews that were at risk of being exterminated by the Russians and the Germans somewhere to live,
Sure.
where they would be out of reach
Uh-huh.
by those actors,
Uh-huh.
those world actors.
That's true.
The problem is they decided to use territory that belonged to the Palestinians.
Yes.
If I were a Palestinian, I'd be torqued,
Yeah.
and that's never going to go away,
Ever.
ever.
No.
It's just never going to go away.
So that's why Hamas exists.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is.
You're in our fucking territory, dude.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Right.
We're going to make your life miserable till you leave.
So who started it? Did Hamas really start it on October 7th?
In the big picture, no.
Right.
But they were behaving themselves for the longest time.
That's an interesting choice of words. I can't imagine you actually mean it that condescendingly. They were behaving themselves. The prisoners were behaving themselves. That's wild.
Okay, they weren't rebelling for a while.
Okay.
Physically, obviously.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
They weren't actively taking hostages and trying to kill people.
Right.
Like the Hamas act was essentially in the dictionary, definition of the term, terrorizing Israel by that act.
Right. Yeah, he sure did.
Yes,
Very effectively.
yes. None of what has transpired then or since is going to fix the problem.
No.
None of it.
Not unless Israel can figure out a way to kill all 2 million of them. Which they're
Exactly.
apparently trying to do. It sure looks like they're trying to do that.
Yeah, under the pretext of we have to destroy Hamas.
Yes. Of
and
course.
and if a bunch of innocent Palestinians have to die because of it, well, that's Hamas's fault.
Yes.
And Palestinians' fault for following them in the first place,
Right.
for allowing them to, Yeah, I know it's a shit show.
It's so atrocious. Just
All I can say
committing
is I'm just,
all these war
I'm just
crimes.
glad I wasn't born into that culture,
oh my god.
because
It's so great to be white. It's crazy. It's crazy. Man, we rolled the dice.
Canadians just cannot fathom that shit.
Mm-mm.
Which is one of the reasons why.
Not the
when-
white Canadians.
No,
The
definitely
indigenous one sure
not.
got
the,
a taste.
Not the. Well, yeah, yes. But I mean, it's yet another reason why, when Canadian soldiers were sent into Bosnia,
Mm-hmm.
when the fighting was apparently about to stop, but not really though.
Right.
Because the Serbs were nowhere near done. Even though everyone said, okay, we'll stop. And the Serbs were like, yeah, sure we will. Try and stop us. And when the Canadians got over there, even though they were prepared for what they were going to see, nothing can prepare you for driving down a street and seeing whole families executed and laid out on their front lawn with their animals and their livestock
Yeah.
and everything for everybody to see.
Yep.
We cannot fathom that level of hatred.
Nope. We cannot. I guess the states, whoever, said that if, like, gave Israel a bit of a scolding,
Right.
if you will, today.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
if you keep
I
up
didn't catch
with this
that.
wild shit,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you might not have us for much longer.
Right.
And then, after that statement was said, they did that airstrike on the hospital and targeted those ambulances today. And said that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. Bet you there was lots of Hamas in those ambulances.
Mm-hmm.
Cocksuckers.
Yeah.
It's just so wild. Like, stuff I didn't know. Because the last big kerfuffle between these two, I was young enough to not really give a fuck.
Right.
Right? Other side of the planet,
Yeah.
up your own ass,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Doesn't affect me in any way.
And also the data wasn't as readily available.
True.
Because now it's...
We were reliant on whatever the journalists were able to
Yeah.
find out, and it usually wasn't enough to make any kind of an informed judgment.
Right.
Because all they were doing was reporting what was happening then and there.
Right. At that
They
spot.
were never talking about the whole length of the
Right.
conflict from the beginning.
And that's the information that I've learned. Now, I admittedly don't know a lot from the Israel side. Like, you hear a lot from the Palestinian side, just how they're treated. And from, like, foreign journalists who have been to Gaza prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
But just that the IDF just assassinate people. Like, they just
Mm-hmm.
kill people.
Mm-hmm.
And they live in a walled camp.
Yes.
And they...
Well, how about the expansion of Israeli territories?
Yeah, they just go
Watching
in
that
and
happen
take out...
over the year has always made me go, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, you're living in their land in the first place. Why would you keep pushing the envelope and poking the bear? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me.
No.
So that's why I say, like, nothing good is ever going to come of this. And until Israel allows the Palestinians to actually set up their own land, and of course it doesn't help that the West Bank and Gaza are separate from each other. It's like having two prisoners, or two prisons,
Yeah.
and the prisoners aren't even allowed to, associate with each other, even though they're related.
Sometimes literally.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
very literally.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I can't identify with it because it's totally outside of my realm of existence and acceptable behavior. But I at least had the decency to read the history on how all of this unfolded, and came to the realization that, well, if you really want to get down to it, Israel is living in someone else's territory. Boy, that funny how that's never happened in the world before, hey?
Yeah.
White people stealing fucking land from the people that's been living there for thousands of years? That shit never happens. That's why, I would love it. I would absolutely, it would make me even prouder to be Canadian if we changed that line in the national anthem. Our home on native land. Because it's so fitting.
Right.
Closer to home, there's a few things that are kind of making me shake my head.
What?
Well, to start with, this ad campaign, the government of Alberta seems to feel necessary to try to sell all over the country. Tell the feds! You heard about this?
I need more information.
Okay, so the federal government have a plan to try to get to net zero or better in the grid, the energy grid,
Uh-huh.
by 2035. They feel it's doable. They feel that if we set an ambitious timeline like that, we could become world leaders in greening our grid and, have technology and expertise to sell to the rest of the world when they get around to doing it, which, hate to break it to everybody, but they already are,
Oh yeah.
like in a big way. In fact, America is actually making us look like cave dwellers in terms of how much they're investing in greening their energy grid, which blows my mind that they would beat us at it. But anyway, the Alberta government, of course, because all they care about is keeping the oil and gas industry alive as long as possible, are totally against the timeline and say, we'll agree to greening the energy grid in Alberta, but only by 2050. 2035 is bullshit. Can't be done without destroying our economy, which is actually nonsense because the feds aren't asking us to shut down oil and gas. They're just asking us to go carbon neutral, which means you can still have your oil and gas emissions so long as you reduce emissions elsewhere, which can be done. So, stop making up this nonsense that it can't be done because it can, and stop making it sound like the attack is purely against oil and gas. It's not. It's against emissions. Period. All stop. So, since it didn't sound like the feds were flinching at their threat, they started an ad campaign called Tell the Feds. And they were basically saying things like, if the feds get their way, you all are going to be suffering with quadruple utility bills,
Right.
random blackouts,
Oh yeah. Right.
the inability to rely on your technology and your heat because of their stupid policy. Tell the feds that this is unacceptable. Kudos to the rest of the country who were subjected to these inane advertisements. They're laughing their asses off.
Of course.
BC are like, what are you talking about? We're almost there. Where the feds want us to be, we're almost there. We'll be there way before 2035. And we're doing okay. Ontario are like, what are you even talking about right now? We are mostly nuclear, and the rest is coal converted to natural gas. And we're investing more in nuclear. We're expanding the nuclear that does exist, and now we're going to build some small modular nuclear reactors. So booyah. Don't know what the hell you guys are talking about, but we're going to be producing a hell of a lot more electricity with no additional emissions. Don't know what you're talking about. Quebec are like, dude, we are the greenest fucking province in the country because we get all of our electricity from hydro. All of it. We've got so much hydroelectricity, we're providing half of New England with what's left. So they are just slapping themselves silly, laughing at this ad campaign. And okay, sure, the Maritimes are a little bit behind the times, but few investments here and there by the feds and fix that problem.
Real quick.
Especially if small modular nuclear reactors do end up being the be-all, end-all.
That'd be wild, dude.
Throw a few of them into the eastern provinces. Problem solved.
Yeah, a few. You mean like two?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah, wouldn't be very many.
No. And so it's like Alberta's doing all these things right now that are making us the laughing stock of the country.
Yeah.
It's unreal. It's unbelievable. But anyway, the latest thing that our premier said, which just blew my mind, made it very clear that she has no idea what she's talking about. She was talking to some people assembled that were talking about the future of greening the grid. and somebody mentioned batteries, battery storage, utility grade, utility level battery storage. And she said, yeah, I don't believe in batteries. She goes, they're too expensive. It would cost this many million just to have this many 100 megawatts of battery storage. And if you scale that up to what Alberta would need, it would cost like, trillions of dollars. And then she shut the conversation down without giving anybody a chance to rebut her ridiculous idea. Because number one, she was using cost data that's over 10 years old. Battery prices have plummeted. Battery density has quadrupled, if not quintupled, just in the last few years. And no one is suggesting that we use batteries to make the whole grid's worth of electricity available.
That's a lot of batteries.
They're talking about batteries able to store what wind and to a certain degree solar produces, so that when they're not, the power's still there, can still be drawn from. Never mind the fact that there's a lot more ways to store energy than putting electricity into batteries. There's gravity-fed storage, where you pump water up into a high reservoir with the leftover power that you're generating from renewable energy. And then when that renewable energy isn't present, you let all that water fall down, turn turbines like hydroelectricity, and then you get your power back. And that's only the beginning. Like, I think in Europe, one of the things that I learned that they started doing in Germany, which is like, those Germans, they figured, hey, we got all these wind turbines blowing all night long when the grid doesn't need any power. What do we got to do to store that energy so that we can use it again during the day? And then somebody had the bright idea, how about we take all of the cold storage warehouses that we have scattered around the country, and instead of having their fridges storing things at a freezer temperature of like -7 or -8, let's take them down to like -20, -25, using all that leftover wind energy. And then in the morning, just shut them off. Because it's going to take them all damn day
to thaw.
To get back up to -10.
Right.
And then when the wind turbines start blowing again after the sun goes down, drive it back down to -20, -25 again. So that's what they're doing. They have found a way to store leftover energy in the form of cold in warehouses.
Without any additional investment.
No.
Yeah. That's wild.
Didn't have to build a damn thing.
No, that's crazy.
Just had to turn the thermostat down.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. Everyone's like, whoa, you're saving me a lot of
I'm
money.
like, holy shit.
Wow. Weird.
I know. So yeah, it's obvious that this government just doesn't want to play ball.
You know what I wonder about?
And they're going to use, ridiculous excuses.
Everything they
or
can,
People don't know any better.
Yeah, and they don't.
Nope.
And they simply don't. What about? So the federal government has this plan. Has it been passed, or is it been
In consultation.
ratified?
No. It has
No.
not.
Okay.
It has not been floated as official legislation yet.
Okay. Like, will it be before what's his nuts gets in to power? Because God knows the liberals aren't doing it again.
Well, yeah, no kidding. It'll depend on the NDP, because let's face it, the NDP are propping up the Liberal government. So long as the NDP are for it, and they should be,
Sure.
it'll pass.
But what about?
But when Peter Pepper gets in power,
Yeah.
which is very likely,
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's a doubt.
what will he do? Yeah, he'll probably tear it down.
Yeah.
He'll probably go, yeah, fuck it, we're not doing it.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that I find is interesting about politics is that it's all smoke and fucking mirrors. Because you can have a government say, we're not supporting this, And it's happening in the background anyway.
Yeah, it's so weird.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Government has
it's cloak and
never-
dagger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
greasy.
never mind that. It's that no government in the world has ever been able to stop progress. You might get to slow it down for a while.
Yeah,
But if there's money to be made,
yeah, it's a coming.
it's coming.
Yeah,
And there is money to be made. So, it's inevitable.
there's so much money.
So, yeah, it's. You can rant and rave all you want. It's coming.
Oh yeah.
It's coming. Here's some statistics for you.
Okay.
Blew my mind. Tesla, holy fuck, man. I wish I could have quoted and documented when Sandy Munro, who was an ex-Ford GM automotive engineer, who has now got his own company, who are in the business of, at the behest of car companies, but also for their own curiosity, tear down and reverse engineer cars that are handed over to them. Tell us what you think about the production value of this vehicle. And Tesla were like first in line saying, here's a Model 3, tear it down, tear it apart, tell us what you think. And Monroe was honest. And then the next generation of Tesla, when the new plants were built and they were able to try their own process and their own efficiencies and their own metal stamping and their own parts procurement and their own technology and computers and a parts sharing strategy. Like a lot of people don't realize, the Model Y and the Model 3 share 85% of their parts with each other. There's no other car company in the world that can claim two different models that they make sharing 85% of the parts.
Yeah, that's just smart.
After the second generation of the Model 3 and even the first generation of the Model Y, Sandy Munro of Munro and Associates made the following prediction. He said, when they asked him, what do the other car companies need to do to catch up to Tesla? And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, many of them won't survive. They waited too long. He said every moment that they hesitate, rather than trying to catch up and perhaps even bypass Tesla, they are screwing themselves. They are making themselves obsolete.
Right.
And the proof is finally manifesting itself. VW, their EV sales have stalled everywhere except Europe. They tried to establish a foothold in China. Too late. Tesla's already there, and the rest of the market is being filled by China's own car companies. So VW's fucked because China was going to be the answer to their future, and they don't have it. And North America are looking at the VW and going, why would I buy that piece of shit when I can get a Tesla? The value proposition just isn't there.
Right.
If VW made a $25,000 EV, okay, now we're talking. But they don't.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty much a done. It's pretty much game over. And not only that, but Europe, China's going, hi, can we sell Geely and BYD brand cars in Europe? And Europe's like, no, because they know if they let China into the European market, it's done. Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, Renault,
Yeah.
Peugeot, they're
all
finished.
gone.
They're
Yeah.
finished. They're finished. They waited too long to get into the game. And now it's manifesting. So, but what's funny about that is that American journalists, American news outlets, are using that phenomenon to suggest, see, EVs aren't all they're cracked up to be.
Of course they are,
Because
yeah.
look at all these EVs that are sitting in dealer lots. They can't sell them. No, you're right, though. They can't. But it's not because EVs don't have a future.
Yeah.
And here's the proof. Tesla is outselling all the other EV brands combined times 2. So if you took all of the EVs made by every other brand in the world, doubled it, Tesla's still selling more cars. That is mind-boggling.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. In the Netherlands now, or is it Denmark? They just released new statistics. In Denmark, the Model Y is the best-selling car, period. Not even gas models. The Model Y is the top seller, period, of all cars. And that is slowly spreading.
Where the fuck are we getting all these batteries?
Well, they're being made by the manufacturers in partnership with traditional battery manufacturers, like Tesla and Panasonic
where that question comes from is,
like, where are we getting the material?
The horror that cobalt mines are.
Yeah. You know what though? Here's and I had a really long, hard think about that. Because let's pretend for a moment, let's pretend we live in a world where electric vehicles don't exist.
Okay.
Or they're not powered by batteries.
Okay.
They're powered by fucking compressed air or hydrogen.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
Where are all these people who are aghast at the damage we're doing to the earth to get all of these metals and elements out of the ground in building computers and phones and microwaves and fucking washers and dryers and gas-powered cars? What do you think, they're made from fucking bamboo forests?
Right.
No. They're using the same material. The only added element, or the only added factor to this, is that the batteries that are being made are using elements and minerals that we traditionally haven't sought out that much of in the past. But we still needed lithium to make lithium-ion batteries for our phones and our laptops and our fucking tablets.
Yeah.
So how come nobody was making a stink about all of that shit? All of a sudden now, because electric cars are such a disruptor, now everyone's focused on the boogeyman. That is, we got to find a way to fucking take some of the air out of this tire. So how do we do it? Well, we do it by making up all these stories and over-exaggerating the impact that it's having on the environment, having to mine all of these elements and minerals and everything else. I watched a very interesting video just a few weeks ago, and they sat down and they said, let's take a long, serious look at some of the myths that continue to prevail today that just aren't even close to being true. Like, the problem with EV batteries is that once you're done with them, they're useless.
Right.
And they're just going to end up in the dump. And all the panelists who were experts in the field said, just so you know, not one car battery has ever made it to the dump. Ever. Even the ones that don't work anymore, to the level that they would need to in order to be used in an electric car. All of the batteries that have come out of the electric cars in the world today have all either been refurbished, the bad cells removed and replaced with new ones so that they could be used again in an electric car, or it's too expensive because too many of the cells are beyond fixing, but there are applications where the cells don't need to operate at full capacity, like setting a battery up in your house to store extra electricity for when the price of electricity is high or there's not enough power on the grid to provide enough electricity. They said that application is already being used, and they're also using those batteries in mass battery storage, utility grade battery storage solutions. Never mind the fact that now there are actual companies that are recycling the actual contents of the batteries. When they're totally beyond
Right.
any kind of use, they tear them apart and they recoup all the elements. And it's like 90% recovery. So they said all of everybody's worries about what are we going to do with all these fucking batteries, turns out business solved it on its own. Because again, here comes that magic sentence.
Yeah.
If there's money to be made,
Yep.
people will figure it out. And they did. That's just one example. Never mind the fact that all the companies that make the batteries, what, you don't think they realize that they got to wean themselves off of the components that are just not sustainable? That's all they've been working on, is trying to find better chemistries that are cheaper and more sustainable. And each new generation of battery has got a different chemistry that's using fewer and fewer rare elements. So the amount of cobalt we used to use has dropped significantly. The amount of manganese we used to use has dropped significantly. We're using a lot more iron now. We're using a lot more copper. Even the amount of lithium being used is starting to drop. And some would suggest that give it 10 years, we may not even need to use lithium anymore. It's the wild, wild west right now, and everything's changing all the time. And that's one of the reasons why the big car companies that have been around for over 100 years can't keep up, because they move as slow as government do, and they don't have the motivation or the culture to change
Right.
fast enough. Chevy almost. Chevy was so fucking close. Chevy have the most popular non-Tesla electric vehicle in the Bolt, but it has a fatal flaw, and that was the slow charge rate. They can only charge at 55 kilowatts, whereas most modern electric cars are charging at 250 plus, some cases even 350. The Bolt can only charge at 55, which makes road trips kind of a pain, but home charging overnight, still achievable. So it's the perfect tool around town car, but it's a shitty road trip car. Whereas if you were to buy a Tesla or a fucking Ford Mach-E or an Ioniq or a fucking Audi e-tron or whatever, you'd probably have a better road trip experience because you could charge faster. Tesla is pushing the envelope so fast, and everybody's just going, what the fuck did they just do now?
Right.
What? They figured out full self-driving without any fucking radar? Cameras only? What the hell? How the hell did he do that? Meanwhile, all the other self-driving competition have got fucking spinning things on rooftops and fucking
Right.
doodads sticking out the grill of the front of the car. Tesla's like, cameras, man. Car can see it.
Yeah, like
car can
12 or
avoid it.
something, right? Yeah.
Like, even they couldn't have predicted that because they started with radar and sight. And then once their computers got smart enough and their neural net got smart enough to train the computers how to drive, they were like, holy shit. Can we maybe can we maybe get away with no radar? And they tried it and they were like, holy shit, it works.
We can.
We can do it. He can see. This motherfucking car can see. Yeah, it's because you put cameras all over the goddamn place.
Yeah, there's a lot of cameras on there.
There is. Yeah, so, yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, so I mean, like, getting back to my original prediction, it's like, governments can rant and rave and say what they will. They're going to fight the power. They're going to fight the trend. They're going to fight progress. And we're going to look back on this day and go, what a bunch of maroons.
I don't think anyone's going to say a bunch of maroons.
No?
No.
No? What do you think?
I don't think so.
No?
Lit, fam. I don't know. I don't know what they'll say, but I won't understand it.
Yeah.
What episode is this?
37.
What are you reading?
What am I
Before
reading?
you go.
Nothing at the moment. I wrapped up. I wrapped up that last book that I was reading.
Yeah.
Yep. And
That was that the trio?
yeah, book 2 of the trio, which was
And you didn't read the third?
not yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm not ready.
Okay.
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. Guys, I'm not ready.
I just wanted to take a break. It was called Absolution Gap, and there is another one to go. But yeah, it's gonna be even harder to digest than the first 2 were, because now the protagonist is completely switched to a whole other like dimension.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dimensional shift.
So I need to be ready.
I've read a few books since.
Mm-hmm.
I read one called Black Flags, The Rise of ISIS.
Oh yeah.
It tells a story. It's not a story. It tells the tale of essentially how ISIS came to be.
Okay.
The book ends,
Nonfiction.
Yeah, the
Wow.
book ends with the last chapter finally says ISIS. And it was just all the build up and all the fuck ups that took place that led to like apathy of the American government or misunderstanding or assumptions being made, not understanding culture. And
On the part of the Americans.
part of the Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was mostly toss and shade at the Americans, but it's the West that didn't fucking do anything when they really should have. And so that was actually a really very interesting book. Learned more about it than I ever knew. How fucked up Jordan was and how bad Iraq really was.
Oh yeah.
Like, you
Oh,
knew it was
yeah.
bad, but like how real bad it was.
Right.
Yeah. And not really having a solid understanding of what life is like in that part of the world. Because it's so foreign to me. Like tribes and like you have a country, and to me a country is a country.
Yeah, we're all the same.
Yeah,
we have the same
basically.
culture.
Basically
same
the same
essential
deal.
values.
Yeah.
Not over there.
Not over there.
Nope.
No, you go over here and they'll kill you. I'm like, wow. Okie doke.
Yep. Yeah.
Okie doke.
And again, another example of it took a fascist dictator to keep everybody in line,
Yeah.
and the minute he was toppled, it was like, okay.
Free for all.
Yep.
Here we go.
All right. Who got the power? I got the power. Oh yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not if I have anything to do with it, and then I'll help her. And then the Americans walked in and went, what
Yeah.
the living fuck is
Well,
going
they-
on
And
here?
they just made it worse. Yeah, so a lot of the stories about Zarqawi.
Oh yeah.
And I was only familiar with the name,
Mm-hmm.
but how big of a deal that dude was.
Mm-hmm.
And
How did he become such a big deal?
he was in jail. The story starts off basically with him in jail.
Yeah.
With a mentor of his who was an Islamist. Back when they weren't really called Islamists yet.
Yeah.
And Zarqawi was, in his previous life to being in jail, he was a hoodlum. He was just a Nefarian.
Right.
Got up to no good, drinking and fight, like,
Yeah.
not a Muslim.
Right.
And then he got into jail, or before he went to jail, he started to see things that like he was on the wrong path, blah 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 blah
Right.
blah blah blah. So then he becomes this mentor of his right hand man. Basically, he was the muscle, and his mentor was the brains.
Yeah.
And then when the king of Jordan died, his son came into power, and as is tradition, I guess, when royalty changes, you let out a bunch of prisoners.
Oh, yeah.
And you keep the real bad ones.
Yeah.
But you let out a bunch just as a sign of good faith.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. So the new king of Jordan got a bad list and let out a bunch of real bad dudes.
Oh.
So there's the first mistake.
Right.
And so this Zarqawi guy got out, and the Jordanian government was watching him like a hawk. And then he
Left Jordan.
left Jordan. He left Jordan.
Solves that problem.
Yeah, went to Afghanistan
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Saw some wild shit with Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, Al Qaeda's all right, but he dug what Osama bin Laden did by, orchestrating airplanes into buildings. But he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, but you're not doing enough here.
Right.
So then he started
It's time to put the fear into the people.
into the
here.
people here.
Yeah.
Right? So then he started killing other Muslims, and he's the first one to behead somebody on the internet.
Oh.
So how we all now know that these terrorists behead people. He was the first guy to do it. And it was literally him on the first video. They just randomly picked an American, this American guy who was a goof. He shouldn't have been over there in the first place. But they grabbed him and put him on screen and cut his head off, and the world was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like this guy had just achieved a level of terrorism that could never be repeated.
No one had ever seen anything like that before.
And then it just became the norm. Like he's releasing videos, and his people were releasing videos all the time, chopping off people's heads. This is just what he did, and this went on for quite some time, until people were like people in the upper echelons of tribes and stuff like that were like, you need to chill the fuck out, dude. Like this is too much. Like you're killing, like suicide bombing places and killing innocent people, which is forbidden in the Quran.
Right.
Forbidden. You don't kill innocent civilians. And he was like, fuck it, they're not innocent. And I've got these fucking people telling me that it's all good.
Yeah.
And they were like, no. So he was humbled a couple times and blah, blah, blah. And eventually, like the Americans are trying to find this fucking guy, but cannot find him. So years and years and years, and then eventually they do. And they got him.
Yeah.
But it's a wild book. It was really cool because it was just stuff that you hear the name. I've heard the name Zarqawi, and it's like, oh yeah, that's probably a bad dude. And then you read it, you're like, oh, this is a very bad dude.
Yeah.
These are bad people.
Yes.
Not just like, ooh, that guy's bad. Just, wow.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even imagine someone so evil. Crazy. So yeah, I read that. I read It. Did I tell you that?
Yes.
Okay. And I just finished a book called, and I'm sure you've read it, maybe not though, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yes. Been a while.
Holy fuck,
I couldn't
man.
tell you what it's about anymore.
It's about a dude who was born on Mars
Yeah.
and was a human,
Yeah.
born on Mars. There was a space shuttle with 10 super geniuses
Yeah.
fired off to Mars.
Yeah.
Somebody there they had a baby,
Yeah.
but then they all died there.
Yeah.
But the kid survived, and the Martians took care of the kid.
Yeah.
So they're Martians. But then another ship showed up, and the Martians were like, okay, you can have your kid back. And they brought the kid back to Earth.
Uh-huh.
So then it's just this guy acclimating to life back on Earth, and he's all weird and he's got weird powers.
And this is Robert A. Heinlein, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. I like a lot of his books.
Yeah, so that's what about, and then it switches to, like, there's just 3 books.
Mhm.
Not 3 novels, but 3
Yep.
sections of the book.
Yep.
And book 2, it's about him traveling around and just figuring things out.
Yep.
In book 3, he's created a religion,
Yeah.
and
So it's like an alternate Jesus story, almost.
almost,
Yeah.
yeah, thou art God. And I was really into the first part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's super dated. It was written in '61,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was hard to read
Mm-hmm.
because of some of the shit, the way that he spoke about women and the women characters that
Mhm.
he had.
Mhm.
It was like hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one line in particular that made me cash out, and then I was just like, I just got to get through this. And it was about how a woman had said 9 out of 10 women that are raped it's sort of their fault, and I was like, I'm out.
Right.
I'm out, dude. This is fucked. And that's the biggest complaints
that
about
was
the book.
that was the general theme of misogyny back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's unreadable. It's so offensive. Like, it's just
That's hilarious.
The notion is it's
Yeah,
sickening.
yeah.
It's sickening. Anyway,
There's a lot of misogyny in his writing.
there is.
Yeah.
I won't read another one
But
of
it's
his
a
books.
product of that generation.
Sure. I'm just not of that generation. I actually find that quite a bit with science fiction books. There's a lot of it
I'm
that's
starting to
super hard to
discover it
stomach.
in music from the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah?
Women as possessions.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like
fucking
it's
gross.
blatant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gross.
It's uncomfortable to listen to because
Yeah.
you're thinking, shit. I grew up on this song.
I
I
love
liked
this
this song. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's
fucking
gross, dude.
embarrassing.
Yeah. It's just wild.
It is wild. It is wild.
So after I read that, it put a real sour taste in my mouth for books. So I was trying to find a palate cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
So I bounced through a few books. A couple, I haven't finished them, but I've, like, in the middle of reading 2 books about enlightenment and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to read David Copperfield.
Oh, wow.
I started to read Dante's Inferno. Just for
Is
like
your
reading.
palate cleansed yet?
So now I'm on the. Oh my god, I'm on. That's embarrassing. I'm on the Karamazov Brothers by Dostoevsky. So some more light reading. It's only 1,400 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yes, still plugging away.
I'm actually thinking of switching gears, but I just haven't made up my mind yet.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't made up my mind if I'm just going to finish this trilogy and then move on, or just let that last book linger
Mm-hmm.
as something I'll get back to. Because there's a story that I am super, super curious about called The Three Body Problem.
Okay. Cool.
It was actually recommended by my friend Bernie. And when I looked into it, they did a really good job of hinting to what it was about without giving anything away at all,
Oh, that's fun.
which
I
I
remember you
love.
talking about this.
Yeah. It's on my list and now they're making a fucking series out of it.
Oh Lord.
So I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I better read the goddamn book before the series ruins it for me. Just like I've been watching Foundation on Apple TV and going, yeah, I don't remember the story having this.
No.
And then sure enough, it's like, no, they took the lot of liberties with the storyline to make it more palatable for
The
TV
yokels?
audiences. God damn it. Because God forbid they should just leave it all science and not have to introduce drama.
Relationships.
Oh my God.
Stop it. Yeah.
Hate it.
Yeah, I haven't watched.
But I heard something that made me go, ooh. Because Rendezvous with Rama.
Uh-huh.
You heard of this story?
Didn't I read that book?
You might have. About that object that passes through the solar system and they decide to go and investigate it?
Yeah, they go inside it.
Yeah.
It's all weird in
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Morgan Freeman,
Mm-hmm.
who fell in love with that story, has been wanting to make it into a movie, but could just never get anybody interested in financing it. Because, let's face it,
It's a weird book.
it's a weird book, it's hard science. There's not a lot of people who would actually be interested in that movie,
No.
depending on how you sell it. Denis Villeneuve, the guy who's currently finishing off the new Dune
Oh, yeah?
movies,
Well, of course he'd be
Said.
interested. Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing Rama. And I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Because I trust him to pull it off. I trust him to pull it off. Now all I need is some good writing. Because the adaptation has to be done well. Because they could really do it justice, or they could totally ruin it. They could totally ruin it.
I have.
Because the overall, I think, theme of that book is just the total strangeness of it all. It's all about trying to figure out just what
the fuck is going
on in here.
Yeah.
Who made this? Why? What are these things? What are they for? And it just keeps getting. Every question that's answered raises 100 more.
Yeah. I can't see it being a good movie. Like, I
Again.
had zero excitement for it being a movie.
No,
Like, it was a good book. But
as were the follow-up books. I don't know if you read any of them.
no, I had read that they were awful. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Do you have a hard time visualizing it as a movie?
Yeah, like, it's just, there's just so much of, what the fuck is this? And it's such an important part of every facet of the inside of that vessel. Every bit of it. And it like, it's slow.
I think
The
if
book is so
somebody
slow.
were to adapt it in a manner along the lines of Alien,
Yeah, like a horror?
yes, it might float.
Yeah.
Because
they got to take...
because there's
yeah.
some scary fucking shit in that thing.
Potentially there
Yeah.
is. Because there isn't anything... Like there is, but way at the end...
Yeah, but we don't know that they're not. That's just it.
Right, but you don't even know that...
There's so much unknown and anticipation going on in that book.
That's the whole thing of
Yeah.
that book, is the anticipation
Right.
of it. And then in the last quarter, things start to get a little gnarlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess...
But that would make a good climax if you're taking the horror angle.
I guess so. But I guess in my head, the build up and anticipation of 3/4 of that book
Yeah.
is as important as that last quarter.
Yes.
But in a movie, it couldn't
Hard
be
to
that
translate.
way.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
Like, you got to hit that climax.
They'd have to
Early.
add things that don't exist in the book.
Yeah, like, and quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, then it's a different fucking. Then it's not the same, and that's me, because I don't watch anything that I've read.
Because guaranteed they would have to put in a protagonist who tries to sabotage the fucking mission.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and draw it out so that you never know whether they're fucking going to make it to the next level or not.
And the things are actually trying to kill them and
Yeah.
not just
Right.
whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
The water scenes that are so important in the book are going to be like this long.
Yeah.
Like, oh. Those giant generators at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That book is way better now talking about it than it was when I read it. Because it was just like, that was fucking kind of stupid.
Right. But now that it's had a chance to percolate.
Yeah, because now I'm just remember the cool things about it. But when
Yeah.
I read it, I was quite disappointed in it. Mostly because how it ended.
Mm-hmm.
It ended like, oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the author was like, well, I guess I better write another one then.
Yeah, exactly.
that's like,
no one was expecting it to
No.
continue. And then the next book came out and it's like, oh, there's more to this story?
Right.
You didn't leave a cliffhanger at the end, so like, what else is there to say?
Right. Yeah, and I think that was the biggest complaint
What?
people
There's
had.
another one?
What? Well, now that's stupid. Because there was only one. That was the whole point.
Everything happens in threes.
Boo.
Yeah, boo. Cliche. Yeah.
That's funny.
But they'll have to put that cliche like right at the beginning. They'll have to find a way to put that in there so that they can keep going back to it and going, see, we told you, everything happens in threes. Ramens are weird that way. The answer to the life, the universe, and everything isn't 42. It's 3.
It's 3. Well, it's divisible by 3 anyway.
Yeah. Oh, man. So thanks for tuning in, y'all.
You're the noof. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Butts.
Okay. Go now.
Okay. Okay.
Go put out your Christmas trees.
Don't fucking do that.
It's time.
To wait until
time.
December.
The soldiers died in world wars
Not even yet.
so that you could put up your Christmas tree in November.
Yeah, on that weekend.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or before.
Lest we forget our
Yes.
Christmas tree.
Correct.
Poppies for Christmas trees.